Hello everyone, it's Sue here. I just wanted to apologise for not making a video for such a long time. I keep meaning to, and then things happen, and I just feel so bad about it. But I want to make a video today because I've been watching two of my best friends on YouTube, Suzanne42 and Dana, all through the year, and you've been so much support to me that I wanted to do something especially for Suzanne42, who's just recently made a video about how she's struggling to lose weight despite having ME, and I want to tie this up as well with the issue of low blood sugar, which is something that seems to affect a lot of people who have ME, myself in particular. When I was first diagnosed with ME, I would say that low blood sugar was probably something I had, but I didn't realize at the time. And when I was first diagnosed with pericarditis, which you can read all about in some of my earlier videos, I began to realize that as time went on and my ME symptoms started coming to the fore, that I always seemed to be desperate for something to eat. And in fact, I've called up the ME Association, which is the UK health support group, in 1996, and they suggested to me that I should eat regular amounts of good quality carbohydrate all through the day. And that was excellent advice in those times, and I did. I used to eat baked potatoes and bananas, and basically lots of bread and brown rice, and basically I used to eat an awful lot of carbohydrates. Now the problem was that in those days I would also use possibly the wrong sort of carbohydrates, sweets, biscuits, this kind of thing, especially when I was having to do something which was not really in my energy levels at all. And I would often be packing dextrose tablets into my handbag when I was going away or going to an appointment or something like that. And consequently, I piled on a stone in weight within a couple of years. I never felt very well at all, and my normal eating was really so carbohydrate based, and I'm actually vegetarian, so it's really difficult because I don't eat any meat or fish at all. So a lot of my meals were becoming, for example, cereal for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, and pasta for tea. It was a sort of stodge diet, it reminded me actually the other day, because I went on a rather rough ferry crossing, and I packed with me some sweets because I don't normally eat them, but it reminded me of what I did used to eat most of the time in 1996, and here they go. Fruit pastels, I mean, they're absolutely delicious, and I used to just sort of sit and eat these all day long, basically, and probably rotted some of my teeth at the same time. So I don't do that anymore, only very, very occasionally for a specific reason. And what I want to do now is actually talk you through the reasons why I think people with ME have this hypoglycemia. There's three books that I absolutely love, but two in particular, which have helped me no end. The first one is called The Polio Paradox, and some of you may already have this. It's by Richard Bruno, and this particular book, it's really drawing attention to the relationship between polio victims and ME-CFS, or ME, I shouldn't say CFS, ME sufferers. And basically what it is, the enteroviruses that are related to polio, so Coxsackie B and a lot of the other enteroviruses that are thought to cause ME, are leaving people with some of the same effects as post-polio syndrome sufferers. And this book is absolutely fantastic. You can get it in the States as well. In fact, that's probably where I got mine from originally. It's absolutely fantastic. It goes into the orthostatic intolerance that many of us have, but it's particularly good at talking about the diet and how you can actually stabilize your blood sugars. And I'm just going to read you a little bit out of this book, which I really, really love, because it's about blood sugar and the post-polio neuron. And it talks about how the neurons are in fact damaged by the virus, and it goes into great lengths about it. And I really love this book because it's so detailed about um, what you should be aiming for in terms of your blood sugars, and basically explaining that people who have ME and who have these horrendous swings in blood sugar between high and low, which are exacerbated by eating far too many simple carbohydrates, it actually, when they're at their lowest level, so when their blood sugar is, say, for example, 5, which is completely normal, or 90 if you're in the States, they will actually feel as if it's 4 or less. So when you take your blood sugar reading and you actually feel almost hypoglycemic, that's because of the damage to the polio-related viruses have done to the central nervous system and the brain. So it's very important to try, if you can, to actually get your blood sugar to be as stable as possible all through the day. And before I learned this, my problem was that I was eating to keep going, if you like, and that was not doing me any favours. And I'll go on to what I did about that in a minute. The other really fantastic book that I highly recommend is Melvin Ramsey's Post-Viral Fatigue States, the saga of the royal flea disease, which talks about the outbreak. Sorry, I'll hold that there so you can see it. The outbreak in the UK, where he talks about the effects that the virus had on people. And one of the things that I absolutely have underlined in this book is where he talks about, if I can just find the right page, yes, he talks about saying some patients report the occurrence of fainting attacks relieved by a small meal or just eating a biscuit. These attacks are the result of hypoglycemia, and we're reminded of 3 young women in the outbreak in Finchley in London who were admitted to hospital in an unconscious state, the result of acute hypoglycemia. So there is definitely some correlation between the way that the body is handling sugars and ME. And in fact, this book, which I don't refer to very often, but it has got some good things in, which is the Anne McIntyre book on ME. She does actually say that people with ME have unstable blood sugars, and they also have obviously unstable circulation, and their body thermostats don't work. But I think, having worked out that this was my problem, I set about doing something about it, because I didn't want to lose all my teeth. I certainly didn't want to end up 20 stones, because the problem with people with ME, as Suzanne 42 so eloquently said, you can't exercise, you can't go on a treadmill, you can't take up some ridiculous amount of exercise in order to lose weight. In fact, Charles Lapp, the expert on ME, advises that 3,000 steps is, probably as many as you should be doing if you've got even just a moderate case of ME, as I have. So I certainly notice that any more than that, and I am very, very ill. So you can't use sugar in order to do things. You can, on rare occasions, obviously, if you really are feeling absolutely dreadful, you've got to go somewhere, then yes. But I think the ideal thing is to try and find out what your blood sugar is on a daily basis. And what I did was I purchased one of these. They're actually quite inexpensive to buy, although the actual strips that you use are not. In the UK, I believe this one I got from Boots cost me about £10, and it came with 10 of these little reading measures. But you can get them a lot cheaper than this online, and it's not going to be an ongoing thing that you need to be buying. I mean, if you were diabetic, you'd obviously get it on prescription or something, but this is just a means that I used in the beginning, and I do from time to time now, just to check and make sure that, for example, I'm not going diabetic, which is obviously really important as well, but just to make sure that my blood sugars are where you want them to be. Now, I did my blood sugar just before I did this video. It's now 10 to 5 in the afternoon. I should be having my tea shortly, and my blood sugar reading is 5. I don't know if you can see that. It's 5. Now, that's absolutely fantastic, because in the US this would equate to 90. I believe you have a different system there. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this is not what it would be or would have been several years ago. Obviously, your blood sugar goes up and down according to whether you eat and so on, and you can look up the perfect levels to have online. But what you don't want to do is eat high carbohydrate meals which will send your blood sugar up very quickly. I mean, it may even go up to 9 or 10 temporarily, but then within an hour it's down to 2 or 3. Now that's quite serious, and it can mean you've got pre-diabetes, but it can also mean you're eating far too many carbohydrates for the ME-damaged brain to process. And I did this for many years, so I can tell you that it doesn't do you any favours. It often will cause you to wake up in the night, sometimes having hypoglycemic attacks, drenched in sweat and so on. And you really got to try and avoid it if you can. The other thing to remember is that although this says 5, which is perfect, to me right now, you know, I'm going to feel like it's 4. So I don't want to wait much longer before I have my tea. But what I would say to you is that this is the sort of reading that I'll now get when I get up in the morning. It will be 5, you know, despite having been to bed, got up, it'll be maybe 4.5, 5, or 90 or just under. It's not. I'm not going to wake up as I used to do with a blood sugar of 2 or 3, which is extremely dangerous. And the way that I've done that is by actually looking at the amount of protein that I eat during the day. I didn't come up with this idea myself. I'm far too clueless to have done that. What I actually did was 2 things. First of all, I went on a website called Food Focus. It's www.foodfocus.co.uk if you're in the UK. You could go on there. It's a free site where you can chart everything you eat for a day. And it's fantastic. It's a diet website. It's completely free, as I say, but the idea is you put down everything you eat, and it tells you how many calories you've had and what the proportions of calories are. So it will tell you how many grams of protein you're eating. The ideal amount of protein is to eat it in grams according to your body weight. So if you weigh 60 kilos, then you should be having 60 grams of protein in a day in split meals. Now, I did mine and I was absolutely horrified because I was eating loads and loads of carbohydrates, sometimes ridiculous numbers of carbohydrates. I'm just moving this because my cat's about to eat these fruit pastilles, which are not going to be very sensible. Basically, the idea being that you increase your protein levels. And just for a few weeks, I used to chart what I ate and try and sort of swing the meals round a bit so that they weren't so carbohydrate loaded. So what I try and do, and I've got 2 fantastic books here, but there are many, many more. Ian Marber, the food doctor, has written some fantastic books. Basically, they're weight loss books, but I don't see them like that. He basically is advocating eating protein with complex carbohydrates. And these books, there's another one here, which is the actual diet itself here. That one, the Food Doctor Everyday Diet, and the other one I just mentioned, this one, which is the Food Doctor Everyday Diet Cookbook. Just have a look online. He's got some really good books, and it just gives you ideas. And the other thing about the weight loss is I have actually lost the weight now that I've put on, and I've done it in the last 2 years. And the reason why I've done it is because I realized that I was just gradually going up year on year. You know, I'd stopped eating all this mountain of carbohydrates, but I wasn't actually down to a sensible weight for my height. My BMI was higher than it should have been. And I could only see it getting worse because I'm almost 53. I'm just going through the menopause now, and you know, you get the middle-age spread coming on. So excuse me, the cat's at the fruit pastilles again. I'm going to have to show you him actually because he's just being silly. Come on. He doesn't have any problem with his weight, but he does have an awful lot of problem with getting into things he shouldn't be doing. So here he is. He's not very happy.